Students, I was talking about Subramanya Bharati. Two more points now related to Subramanya Bharati. He is a great social reformer. He mentioned only, in his opinion, he propagated during that time, India has got only two castes. And now mankind has got only two castes. One is men, second is women. That's all. Those are the castes he mentioned. He has taken out his sacred thread. He never wore a sacred thread because he believed that in humanity he believed. That's why no, he abdicated that. Bharati award, government of Tamil Nadu has created a Bharati award in the memory of Subramanya Bharati from 1994. Moving on to the next topic, Tharu tribes, Tharu tribes, Sentinelese, Zomi, and now Tharu. Tharu tribes. UP ethnic tribe, this is. Their huts are made up of grass collected from forests. Tharu means follower of Theravada Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism. They are inhabitants of Terai lowlands amid Shivaliks and lower Himalayas. Uttarakhand, UP, and Bihar, these are the places where you can find Thoru tribes. Forest dwellers, agriculture is their activity. They speak Tharu, an indigenous subgroup. They are Buddha and then no Shiva worshippers. Women have stronger property rights in this community. So now almost similar to Kerala culture. Though they don't belong to southern side, though they are in the northern side, you see the cultural similarities. That time, a tribal community where no women has got a property rights. It is resembling certain of the practices we find down south. Next point, the Battle of Bhima Koregaon. Battle of Bhima Koregaon. BHIMA hyphen Koregaon. KOREGAO. Battle of Bhima Koregaon happened in 1818. It's between Peshwa forces of Maratha and then British. The significance is that Peshwa community, Peshwa kingdom, on an incident, the Peshwa got angry and then he punished the Mahar community soldiers in the Peshwa army. Mahar community was a Dalit segment in Maharashtra. Dada Saheb Ambedkar belonged to Mahar community. They are the Dalits. Peshwa belonged to upper caste person. He rejected all Mahar soldiers coming into the army. No, Mahar were there. On certain incident, he expelled all Mahar community soldiers from Peshwa army. Mahar people got insulted and then they went and joined British forces. They fought against the Maratha Peshwa forces. That is the significance of Bhima Koregaon struggle. So, defect was considered to be an insult to upper caste, defect of Mahars, and then no, joining the forces of British and defeating the Maratha forces. This established a superiority of, this is the symbol of Mahar Dalit pride. This movement was now considered to be this win was considered to be pride of, it was considered to be a significant symbol of Dalit pride. Later on, Baba Ambedkar went there to Bhima Koregaon, where this incident or this struggle happened, and he established a pillar commemorating the victory of Dalits over Peshwa community. So that's how the significance of Bhima Koregaon has come. Recently, if you are following the news regularly, Bhima Koregaon was the case. There was a different case, not related to Peshwas and then no British struggle. A conspiracy was plotted in Bhima Koregaon by the Maoist and Maoist supporters. Varavar Rao is one leader, and then Professor Sai Baba of Jawaharlal Nehru University. These two were, government thought these two were the main pillars behind the conspiracy, and these two were Maoist sympathizers, Naxal sympathizers, and pretty long time they were imprisoned in jail. Professor Sai Baba is still in jail. Varavar Rao, after a significant period spending in jail, after undergoing a lot of health-related issues, very recently he is released on bail. That is also in, if you go to political area and current affairs related to polity, then you will know, remember Varavar Rao and Professor Sai Baba under Bhima Koregaon case. Next point is Mannathu Padmanabhan, Mannathu. Mannathu Padmanabhan is Prime Minister paid tribute to Mannathu Padmanabhan on his Jayanti. When he was in Kerala, when the elections were there, PM visited Kerala. There, Mannathu Padmanabhan, he belonged to a Nayar community in Kerala. He was a freedom fighter. He anti-untouchability, and then he advocated opening of the temples for Dalits, social reformer. He participated in Vaikam Satyagraha. Vaikam is a place, Satyagraha. And then he started a society called Nayar Service Society. These are the points related to Mannathu Padmanabhan. Next is Yakshagana. Yakshagana, we discussed long about Yakshagana while I was talking about theater. 50-year-old, why this became into news very recently. A 50-year-old Sadhu Kothari, an Yakshagana artist, died on stage while performing Yakshagana near Udupi very recently. It's a traditional theater form of Karnataka. It's a temple form, Puranas, dance, music, dialogue, and then now stage techniques. Entire these things comprise together Yakshagana. They will have extensive makeup, large headgears, bright dresses, and then ornaments are also worn by the Yakshagana artists. It is played in Kannada, Malayalam, and to some extent Tulu also. The musical instruments used here are chanda, is a kind of a drum beat. Chanda, Kerala also you will find this chanda during Sabarimala Ayyappa processions. You will see the beat of chanda. So chanda is one instrument. Maddalam is another instrument. Again, it's a percussion instrument. That means no drum beat. It's another kind of a drum. Jagata is a metal plate on which you play, and Chakratala is another one. In hands you keep two brass bells, and then no, you play according to the beat and sound. So these are the four instruments. Generally, chenda, maddalam, this combination of percussion instruments will not be used in any form of art. That is the significance. Next point is Vishwabharati University. PM addressed the centenary celebrations of Vishwabharati University. Tagore established, Rabindranath Tagore, Nobel laureate, established this in 1921 at Shantiniketan near Bolpur of West Bengal in Birbhum district. It is the oldest central university. It has got a national importance, brought national importance by an act of parliament in 1951. There are two campuses in Shantiniketan. Out of that, one is Shantiniketan, second is Sriniketan. Shantiniketan concentrates on art, agriculture, and related studies. Next topic is New Anubhava Mantapa. New Anubhava Mantapa. Anubhava Mantapa. Anubhava Mantapa is in Karnataka. It is related to Basaveshwar or Basavanna Lingayat community monument or structure. Recently, Karnataka, government of Karnataka has laid a stone, a foundation stone in Basava Kalyan of Bidar. Basava Kalyan is place. Recently, MLA by-election also held in Basava Kalyan. Basava Kalyan is a place in Bidar. Government of Karnataka wanted to laid a foundation stone for developing a new Anubhava Mantapa. There was an old Anubhava Mantapa. It was in a dilapidated stage. Government wanted to construct a new Anubhava Mantapa in Basava Kalyan in Bidar district. And CM has laid a foundation stone. It is thought to be a 6-floor structure developed in 7.5 acres. There is, it is to propagate the principles of Basaveshwara philosophy. Basaveshwara original Anubhava Mantapa, which is there in Basava Kalyan, is 12th century architecture. It was also called the first parliament of the world. It is established by Basaveshwara, a Lingayat. It is for the Academy for Saints, Mystics, and Philosophers of Lingayat faith. Social justice, social equality are the principles of Basaveshwara. He propagated two principles which are now currently known in Karnataka. Poet philosopher he was there in Kalachuri dynasty when King Bijjala was ruling Karnataka. This Basaveshwara was very prominent. Social awareness and equal prominence to women, 50% for women in everything. These all, and Shiva as the supreme god, these were the principles of Basaveshwara. Apart from that, in social relevance, his two principles are very famous. One is Kayaka, that means work is divine. Kayaka, that means you have to do work. K-A-Y-A-K-A. Second is Dasoha, D-A-S-O-H-A. Dasoha is for distribution. You have to work, and whatever you are now earning or whatever you have, you need to distribute among needy. That is the Dasoha. When you remember the word Dasoha, people who are there in Karnataka, they have to certainly remember Lord great Guru, the Swamiji of Udupi, Swamiji of Tumkur, recently died after his 111th year. He died in his 111th year. his principle is dasoha. That means no, you need to distribute everything to the poor. His famous teachings have to come into mind immediately. Then this all leading to welfare state. The dasoha principle is based on the welfare state. That means the government also have to take care of the needy people's needs. That's the obligation of the government. Ultimately, this is stating when was 12th century, when the principle was propagated, and then now how it is relevant to the current society, you see, understand. You have to relate everything to the current, previous, and then no, whatever thing you are reading, you have to relate every previous incident to the current incident, whether it has got a relevance or relation or it's totally new. The next point is, I think I have 2 more points. I will complete these 2 more points. Next is harvest festivals. I'm talking about harvest festivals. During the harvest season, generally every state celebrates some kind of a festival. These are called harvest festivals. First, we talk about Lohri, Lohri. Lohri is celebrated by Sikhs in Punjab. Lohri is the end of the winter, where they welcome the sun into the north side. It is end of the winter season, and welcoming the sun is the main feature of Lohri. A day before Sankranti, if we celebrate Sankranti on 14th or 15th of January, a day before Sankranti is Lohri for Punjabis. For us, it is Bhogi. For people in AP and Telangana, it is Bhogi. Just Bhogi is again a significance. Sun is the significant god for Bhogi. Likewise, Lohri is important for Punjabi Sikhs. Next, they also, the Lohri also, Puja Parikrama will be there. Along with the Prasad, they move around the bonfire. Next is Makara Sankranti. It is in AP and Telangana. Undivided AP used to do this. Sankranti is also there in Karnataka. Sankranti is also there called by other name in Tamil Nadu. But slightly the customs differ. It is entry of the sun into zodiac Capricorn. Onset of summer, and the period is called Uttarayan, which is said to be very auspicious season for Hindus. It's a sacred period in Gujarat, and in Gujarat, International Kite Festival will be held on this day. Pongal. Pongal is again a festival, no? Sankranti is called Pongal in Tamil Nadu. This is also related to harvest festival. Pongal means overboiling. That means spilling. After overboiling, spilling is called Pongal. Boiling over is also known as Thai Pongal. It's a 4-day occasion. Rice, it is related to rice harvest. It is performed to show gratitude to the god for his generosity through production of grain from the earth. That is the significance. In Tamil Nadu, Kolam is another significant aspect related to Pongal. Kolam is with rice powder, various colored powder is used, you call it Rangoli, and then various designs will be laid at the entrance of the house, which is very auspicious. If you remember, I talked about Kollam, a traditional holy making art, which commemorated the inauguration of the Vice President of America, Harris. Next is Magha Bihu is in Assam. Magha Bihu, Bihu is a harvest festival in Assam. Maghi is also a harvest festival in Punjab. Saji, Saaji. Saji is a harvest festival in Shimla. That means Himachal Pradesh. Kicheri, Kicheri. Kicheri is again a harvest festival in UP. The last point for today is Jallikattu. Jallikattu. Jallikattu is a traditional bull taming sport in parts of Tamil Nadu. The area where this Jallikattu happens, the area is called Jallikattu area. It is a traditional bull taming sport. This is significant in two ways. One, the strength of the bull is indirectly indicates the breed of the bull, how pure it is, how strong it is, and then whether the breed can be utilized for further exploitation of the breed. Similar kind of a strength the animals can be produced from this. This is a test for the bull. Second is, it is a test for human bravery. You are identifying brave persons from the community who can fight against the bull, raging bull, and then taming the bull. This is no significant act. Fighting against an animal which is about 5 to 6 times to 10 times of his weight, and then taming the bull is not a simple art. It brings out the bravery in the persons, and it identifies the area such kind of people can be given protection related activities. A sect can be formed. Suppose he belongs to a particular sect, he can be made leader of the sect, where protection of the entire community can be given to him. Such kind of indirect benefits are there in conducting the sport as well as observing the sport. Normally, a thoroughly bred and then a bull, which is not used for any agricultural purposes, cultivation purposes, such kind of a bull is bred only for Jallikattu. And on the day of Jallikattu, that festival, a gold or silver coin is tied to the head of the bull. Whoever brave boy or man is taming the bull, and man he defeats the bull, automatically the gold coin that comes as a prize to the person who defeated the bull. Nobody can defeat the bull. The gold coin will be claimed by the owner of the bull. That is the Jallikattu. So it is a traditional bull taming sport. Parts of Madurai, Theni, Tiruchirappalli, Trichy, and Pudukkottai. These areas are called Jallikattu districts. During second week of January, during the harvest festival time, during the Sankranti or Pongal times, this Jallikattu is being performed. It is a 2000-year-old competitive sport. I told you, this is a traditional way to preserve pure breed of bulls. So with this, I have completed today's lecture.
మంచి సార్, బాగా చెప్పారు, చాలా ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్. పాయింట్స్ నోట్ చేసుకోండి, మళ్ళీ ఇది సర్క్యులేట్ చేస్తారు మీకు. దాంట్లో నుంచి మీరు రెఫరెన్స్ బుక్ కింద పెట్టుకోవచ్చు అది. ఎందుకంటే చాలా ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఇప్పుడు జల్లికట్టు గురించి చెప్పారు. విశేషాలన్నీ మనం గ్యాదర్ చేయాలంటే చాలా టైం పడుతుంది కదా. సారు చూసి దాని గురించి మీకు ఏదైనా డౌట్స్ ఉంటే అడగండి.
నేను పోవటం చాలా స్లోగా పోతున్నాను, అంతకుముందు కొద్దిగా ఫాస్ట్.
అట్లే ఉండాలి సార్, అట్లే ఉండాలి. వాళ్ళు ఏదైనా రన్నింగ్ నోట్స్ కావాలంటే రాసుకుంటారు,
రాసుకునేదానికి స్లోగా పోతున్నా.
అదే. ఎనీ డౌట్స్? Jallikattu was banned by the Supreme Court, or they have given permission?
They have allowed.
They have allowed.
They have allowed. This Tamil Nadu government went government,
So,
they did not ban it. That's why the Jallikattu is being continued.
that too before elections, I think. There
Before-
was some, yeah,
Last year also there was a movement.
yeah,
Last
yeah,
week-
yeah.
There was a movement from Tamil Nadu government. The
Mm.
people who wanted this to be banned, but it didn't happen. They
Yeah.
thought central government is thinking that if Jallikattu is banned, no, the sentiments of the Tamilians will be hurt.
Mm.
మన కోడి పందాల లాగా అనుకోండి, దీన్ని బ్యాన్
అంటే
చేయలేకపోతున్నారు.
same.